The biggest difference with snow and sand driving, you can't see what's underneath snow. I know you can't see what's underneath sand either, but sand, you know, you can pretty much guess what's under sand is more sand. G'day, how you all going? So this video here is going to be talking about what I do before I go for a snow trip. So it's not an overnight camp, it's just for a day drive out in the bush checking out snow. And snow season's coming up pretty quickly. Alright, so you've made the decision that you want to go and head to the snow. Now, in that few days or week leading up to going on that snow trip is a perfect time to start collecting and gathering all your things that you need to take with you, so that when it comes time to jump in the car on the weekend or whenever you get a chance to, you have all those things with you all pre-organised. So some of the key things is to grab your bag, even a couple of bags, it doesn't matter. You might think you've overpacked, but overpacking is better than not taking enough. So things like good quality gloves to keep your hands warm, that's a pretty obvious one. A good thick jacket, even thermal pants and thermal top. Good boots. Jeans aren't necessarily the best thing in the snow, but so good wet weather pants, good boots or gum boots, and even a couple of spare pairs of socks. So if you're taking kids with you, even for yourself, take 3 or 4 pairs of socks if you need to. Just fill those bags up with stuff, because nothing better than once you've had wet socks or wet boots or even cold hands to put a fresh layer of clothing on. So have all that pre-packed, ready to go when it's time to jump in the car. Even blankets and towels, they come in super handy as well. So if you have kids and stuff, and even for yourself, if you're finding it really cold, you can hop in the car and wrap yourself in a blanket and stuff like that, and that'll also keep you nice and warm. So that's all the personal side of it, keeping yourself prepared and packed before you go. Next, I'll touch on what you should be looking at with your 4-wheel drive, that week prior to heading out and exploring some snow tracks. All right, let's talk about your preparation for your 4-wheel drive prior to heading off. Things like tyres, it may seem obvious, but yeah, check those. Make sure that you've got, you know, all terrains at minimum. Mud terrains are obviously preferred, but yeah, all terrains as a minimum, good quality tyre heading out into the snow there. Things like your battery condition. Make sure that your battery is working well, because you're going to be really pushing it to its limits, because when you're driving, you're going to have your heater on, you're going to have, you know, possibly your lights on, you're going to have everything running through your car all the time, and that cold temperature as well. So if your battery's a little bit on the low side, it might be worth replacing that. Or also pack a portable jump start pack if you're by yourself. But it's even better if you go with your mates, and then you can have your jumper leads with you there as well. Check all your cooling system and belts and all that mechanical side of things, because when you are in the snow, your vehicle is pushing through effectively. If you're the first one driving through some tracks and you're pushing through fresh snow, everything is working a lot harder. So do make sure that that's all up to scratch. Another thing as well, which, you know, some people mightn't really think about, clean all your windows inside your car before you go. It can reduce the chance of them fogging up and things like that while you're out there driving. But yeah, make sure you've got clean windows on the inside of the car. Of course, you're probably going to get them dirty on the outside, but at least you're not going to have windows fogging up. A few other key things to check, obviously, check if you do have a winch fitted. Make sure that that's actually working before you head out to the snow. As a minimum, at least once a month, whether I use my winch or not, I actually pull the rope out and pull it back in just to give that winch, get it turning over and working. So there might be 6 months or even more before I use it, but minimum every 3 to 4 weeks, I just pull my rope in and out, and only a bit just in and out just to get everything working in the wedge, particularly if it's sitting out in the rain and stuff. And we've had a pretty wet week down here in Victoria. So check that's all working as well. And just give your car a good eye check over and make sure everything's tight, you know, roof racks, awnings, suspension, bushes and things like that. So then when you do get out there, you don't want to be, you know, trying to avoid lying under your car and working on things like that. All right, so the anticipation's been building and you're getting ready and you're ready to head out, and you've got about 3 or 4 more days or 3 days to go before you jump in the car and head out for that snow trip. You've been watching the forecast and it's looking pretty good, and you might have a couple of mates organised as well to come along with you. Now it's time to get some of those finer things done. So whenever I go, I've got my chainsaw here. So I've got the chainsaw there, and I carry that in that carry bag there. So I always make sure that the actual chainsaw as well is in good working order. So you want to check things and make sure that you've got plenty of oil in it, and if you do need to take some spare fuel, give it a start up. Make sure it's running well. Make sure that the chain's nice and sharp and it is working well, because that time when you're at the snow and you're going to need your chainsaw, you want to make sure that it's got to fire up. So a quick service over the chainsaw if you haven't used it too often. Other things to start getting ready into your car is obviously your recovery gear. So in my recovery kit, even for those sort of trips, I just have this old axe there. I chuck that in the car because that could also come in handy. But I also carry my recovery gear. Now I've got I've probably got more, 4 or 5 of these Sabre Offroad soft shackles. One of the reasons I mention the brand of these is because I have used them quite a lot, and I know that these products are tested here in Melbourne, actually in Australia, and they've all got the safety rating tag on them. So with your recovery gear, make sure that it's in really good working order. So this one here's had quite a bit of use, and there's a different variety of shackles there as well. So they come in super handy, and they are very lightweight. A lot of you guys are probably changing over to soft shackles now. If you haven't already, I'd recommend doing that. But do just remember what brand you buy and check that it's good quality gear. Another thing to pack, I've got this kinetic rope, which is also a Sabre kinetic rope. And make sure that it's also rated for your vehicle and in really good condition. So I've got that, and in the bag on the ground there, I've got a snatch block and I have a tree trunk protector. And for the back of the hitch on the FJ, I just have a recovery receiver, which sits in the back, which is suited for the soft shackles. And the front of the car is also fitted with a rated recovery point there. So if you do have to do any snatching or anything like that, or double line pulls or anything, you know that your vehicle's got all the proper rated recovery gear. And if you're with some mates, you can even put all your gear together, but make sure that everyone's got the good stuff. Something I'll just add about the chainsaw as well. That's often something that just sits around for a while and you mightn't use it too often. So check the condition of the fuel. Even if you've got to put fresh fuel in it, you might be able to get it. It might run for a little bit, but it mightn't run that good. So yeah, put a fresh batch of fuel in there. And also in the bag there, I always just carry some spare bar oil. You might be cutting big trees and logs, but often when you're driving these tracks through the snow, you'll have the lighter small saplings in that. They just drop over the track, and you might feel like you got to clear some of that through, or even just sticks and logs and branches. So yeah, it's pretty important, even if you just got one chainsaw in your group of mates if you go. All right, so it's the night before your trip. You're all excited, everyone's pumped. You've got your clothes bag in the car already. That's ready to go in the morning. You've got all your recovery gear in the car. You've got that all sorted as well. Your chainsaw's done, all your car's done, your trip prep. You've got your tyre compressor in the car. You've got all that stuff packed, ready to go. So for food for your trip. Now, it's not a bad idea, but it's sometimes worth just pre-packing stuff. So you might have a set of pre-made sandwiches. You might have stuff ready in the fridge just to go, easy stuff to get ready and cook, because sometimes if you're heading through, before you know it, time goes pretty fast when you're out in the snow, even though you should be just cruising along, taking it pretty easy, but time does move, and you might pull up to a spot and there's not a lot of shelter and you've got a breeze and things like that, and you may need just to have your lunch in the car. You might not be lucky enough to get to a nice, sheltered spot out of a breeze in a little saddle, or the wind could be howling through and misty. So If you've got sandwiches already made, or a thermos with hot water and coffee and things like that, even a travel buddy, you might have your pies cooking. So just keep your food nice and simple and over cater for what you think you need to take. So in the morning, have a good breakfast before you head off, or have one on the road on the way through. But yeah, have a good breakfast in the morning and then have all your food prep done and taken care of. All right, so you're all packed, you're in the car and you're heading off. So you should have your maps of your area because you've done your pre-checks. You've got everything else all packed and loaded in your four-wheel drive. Now, if you've got a diesel vehicle, you would have possibly heard about Alpine fuels and Alpine diesels. Now, if you're just doing a day trip and stuff like that, Alpine diesel's not super important. It's more that's more suited if you're doing an overnight stay and you're parking your car overnight in really cold, icy, snowy conditions. But because you're going to be driving a bit, stopping for half an hour or so, your car will be fine. Just with your regular diesel in your fuel tank and through your fuel lines. When you're heading out, you've got your maps ready, you've got everything organised, and you're ready to go for the snow. You've met up with a few mates, and you're heading up the snow line. So you're going to, before you hit any of the snow, more than often than not, you're going to be heading up dirt roads and stuff. So let's talk a little bit about tyre pressures. There's a few different options in the snow for traction. So you might have some chains and stuff fitted for your car. You can hire them from a lot of places as well. If you want to go right up and get chains fitted to your car, you can look at doing that. Or you can do your tyre pressures. So definitely recommend dropping tyre pressures in the snow. So you're going to be doing that. You might have to adjust them a few times for that little bit of extra traction, but a lot of people, more so 15, 20 years ago, they wouldn't want to drop tyre pressures because they think it's going to lower their car too much. But at the end of the day, it doesn't drop it that much underneath. You've got to be actually gaining traction anyway. Also, pop your headlights on, get your lights on, because it's not so much for where you can see where you're going, it's more so other people can see you, particularly when it's quite misty and, a lot of fog and potential sleet coming through. So pop those headlights on. I forgot to add before, and I've got it on the roof right up there, as part of your recovery kit, shovels. This is probably your number one tool to take for recovery. Long handle shovel up there. You might be wondering why long handle. If you've got even just your recovery boards, which is something else I failed to mention, you see people digging with your recovery boards. To me, you may as well be digging a hole in the sand with that. Grab yourself a good long-handled shovel, and it doesn't have to be one solid piece. You can get those good collapsible shovels now where you can extend handles out so they'll fit into your car if you don't have a shovel mount like what I've got on top of the FJ there. So that enables you to get down without kneeling down in the snow and shoveling up, clearing out under diffs and around tyres and things like that. So when driving in the snow, best way to describe, a lot of people talk or mention it's a lot like driving in sand. It is similar to a degree. You do have your soft patches and things like that you've got to go through. But the one thing about snow, the biggest difference with snow and sand driving, you can't see what's underneath snow. I know you can't see what's underneath sand either, but sand, you can pretty much guess what's under sand is more sand. When you're driving through snow, you might be going through, there might have been a tree down the night before and it's laying under snow, and you're coming through and you might hit something this big, you're plowing through, and the next thing, bang, you've hit that. So just be really conscious of what's underneath there. There could be rocks, there could be puddles, dips, things like that. Sometimes it is hard to tell exactly where the side of the track is. You might go a bit close to the side to let someone else pass, and next thing you've slid off the side into a spoon drain or something like that. So just nice and slow, momentum's good, and be aware of what's around you. So nice, slow and steady, like a nice even pace. So if you've got all your traction things, because obviously you've got to be already in four-wheel drive. If you're watching this video, I'd like to think that you're already being four-wheel drive. If you've got traction controls and lockers and things like that, play around a little bit. You might find somewhere you're trying to get up something and you have your traction control on, turn it off. It doesn't always help you with this. If you're unsure of how all that sort of works, you can YouTube it. There's plenty of videos. Or go through your service book and your owner's manual, and that'll tell you what conditions to use it in. Even a lot of cars now have snow, crawl, rock, different conditions You just turn a little dial on it and the car does it for you. All right, so what happens when you're in the snow and next thing you get stuck? Well, first thing you do is don't panic, don't rush. Most likely when you get stuck is just through lack of traction. It's not going to be necessarily unless you're really caught out and you're on a really gnarly angle and things like that. But most often if you get stuck, it's just through lack of traction, through a lack of ground clearance. So what you can do, sometimes if you're trying to go through deep snow, just slowly go through and just keep pushing through. Don't necessarily go barreling through and push through because you're going to be putting extra strain on everything. So just push through, and what that does, it pushes the ice down and firms the snow down and firms up the track underneath you. So then you can just keep making your way through. Eventually you might have that much snow in front of the car, which I've had plenty of times, that you can't actually go any further forwards, and that's it. So what you do, you pull up and have some lunch and take some photos and do whatever you want to do, and then turn around. But turning around is not always the easiest option. You might have to do a lot of reversing, so keep that in mind. It doesn't hurt to have a spotter behind you at times if you can't see out the back of what's going on around you. And that comes down to communications as well. So most people will have a UHF fitted in their car. If not, carry a couple of handhelds and use that. Or if not, you might be in a spot that has phone service. If there's a person spotting you, they can even just easily call you and just go, yep, left, right, whatever. But, you know, got you clear and stuff like that. So that, and hand signals as well, is also another one, which I know when I do these videos, I wave my hands a lot and I'm trying not to. So that's also something to take into consideration. So let's talk about where I actually store my recovery gear in my four-wheel drive. So in the FJ, and I did the same in the GU, I store it on the floor, down low, behind my driver's seat. You see a lot of guys with utes and even wagons with drawers, and they store all their recovery gear in the back. The last thing you want to do is have your recovery gear stuck in the back of your car and you can't access it, because a lot of people have cargo barriers, and with a ute, clearly you might be able to open the tailgate or get down to it or anything like that. If you've got a canopy indoors, you might not be able to open up. It might be in a tub on the passenger side and you're in an embankment and you can't get your recovery gear out. So what I do is just keep it nice and low and just on the floor behind me. If you've got kids, they can put their feet on top of your recovery bag or anything like that, it's fine. So if you do need to grab it, bang, it's right there and it's easy to get out. It's the same as with the shovel. It's easy to get off the roof. Like I mentioned before, if you have one of those collapsible ones, keep it handy, nice and close. Keeps it a lot simple and a lot more stress-free of trying to, you know, scratching your head of how you're going to get this strap out and this soft shackle and pull that out. And your winch controller, keep that nice and handy as well. Stick it in your glove box or in your console, make sure it's nice and easy. The beauty with soft shackles as well, if you have a grab handle that's, you know, in the back or something, hang a couple of soft shackles on that. It's up nice and high and it's easy to get. And then everything's all ready to grab. Now, something else to put in your kit, your recovery gear is going to get very dirty and gritty if it comes time to use it, more so than if you're in mud, because in snow it's full of, as you're driving, it's just swirling everything up under it. It's almost like sandpaper-ish underneath. So give your recovery gear a really good wash when you get home. So, you know, pull it out, dry it out, make sure it's all in good working order for the next time you use it. Alright, so you've been out in the snow, you've had an absolutely awesome time. The kids have had enough, they're ready to go home. Often you might find kids in the snow after half an hour, they might have had enough, they're ready to go. You've put all this effort in and you're building your trip up. It might be your first time you've ever done it. It might be your 50th time you've ever done it. And you've taken all your photos and you've shared it and showed all your mates and everything that you've, the awesome time that you've had out in the snow. Now you're heading back home, or it's a day later and you've gone back to work or whatever. It's time to check over your four-wheel drive. So you want to make sure that everything's nice and clean back underneath there. So I mentioned before about giving your recovery gear a good clean. Same goes with your car. Snow has a tendency just to work its way in like mud into all these little nooks and crannies. You know, might be pushed it in there. You mightn't have seen a stick that you've driven through and that's shoved in up under your chassis rail or something like that. So pop your head under there and make sure that everything's nice and clean and you know, ready for the next time you go. And then if there is something that needs maintenance, you go, yep, beauty, I know that needs taken care of. It might last to the next service, or you might just take care of it yourself in your driveway or in your shed. But yeah, definitely check over everything after you've been out having a bit of fun. All right, so you're probably wondering, okay, so where do I go for driving in the snow? Where can I go that's close to Melbourne, that's not seasonally closed? Some places close from the 1st of May, others close from the Queen's birthday weekend in June, a lot of gated areas. Look, I'm not going to tell you where to go. That's part of the fun of you guys being able to look of places to go out and check out, but there is definitely plenty of spots to go and find good snow. Often I find the best snow is around August. The ground's been nice and cold for a couple of months by then. It sort of hangs around, and you find a lot of good weather patterns coming through around July, August. Now, we're only towards the end of April now. We had a slight dumping the other night just up in the top of Dargo High Plains there. So it can fall all year. I've even camped in November up at Mount Terrible there, and I had snow up there overnight. So there is lots of places that aren't gated that you can go to. Now, just please remember, if you do heading out to these snow spots and you want to keep it quiet to yourself, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with it. We want to keep these spots nice and open, so no heading through there. Just because you're in the snow, don't think you can go through and tear it and rip it up and do donuts and everything else in there, because you will dig down into the ground underneath it. And often those spots are quite a fragile sort of environment, and it takes a long time to recover. And I'm not going on a rant here, but we do not want to see places closed off, more and more spots where we can't access in the colder months or even in the summertime. So just respect where you're going. Just think, okay, I want to do this again next year. I want to do it again in 10 years' time. I want to show other family and friends where to come. Nothing worse when you get to a spot and you go, oh, we used to be able to drive in here. We used to be able to do that. And then you're just living with a memory in your head and you can't get out and experience it. So if you are in those areas, please remember to respect where you go. Righto, so it's time to wrap this video up. Back to where I started, right here next to this table, sharing with you all my recovery gear. Actually, it's not even all of it. Some of my recovery gear that I do take away with me. And I didn't bring my recovery boards with you to show you, but I do have a set of those in my recovery kit. But if you've made it through this far in the video, thanks so much for watching. Now, a lot of you guys would have done a lot of snow driving, no doubt, and some of you might have done none at all. And this video, I'm hoping, was a great help to you guys. If there's anything you think I should have thrown in to the video, let me know. I did have a whole list of notes that have been taken down for about a week or so to try and share with you guys and try and remember everything that I do before I head up into the snow. But, you know, there is definitely going to be something on there I've forgotten. So pop that down in the comments. Share it with all of us. We're always learning. And I will show you any snow trips I do this year right here on my channel. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.